Good afternoon. Hi, Matt. Welcome to Be the Solution.
Hello. Hey, Maria.
This is Maria Quattrone with Be the Solution and Matt Wagner, president of Rate Radio and TV Experts. Welcome, Matt. We're going to do this today. It's September 28th. Can you believe that?
Yes.
We were just talking about how, gosh, time has felt like it has stood still.
Feels like someone put the pause button on March 15th and we're still waiting for someone to take the pause button off, right?
Yep. We continue to find ways to be the solution. And you've had a very interesting journey in your career. And you started out actually in the radio industry, right?
Yeah, just like you, actually.
Yeah. We have some things in common. I started out in 1994. How about you?
I was just a couple of years earlier than that. I won't give away my age, but as you can tell, I've had a few miles behind me. But no, it was really interesting. I grew up in Chicago, which was kind of the radio capital of the world. And, I fell in love with radio personalities there. And I always wanted to be a DJ. But then I realized you have to have talent. And I could do better by working with the talents than being a talent. So my whole goal from day one in helping people be on radio is that if I can take that connection that a radio personality has with a listener and insert my client to be part of that, or in this case, a real estate agent, to kind of piggyback that credibility and to make them a part of that conversation, then they don't sound like an ad. They actually become a friend of a friend who's talking to their friends on the air. And it's worked really, really well. I mean, what I never would have dreamed, 20 years ago that I would have actually focused just on one category like real estate. I loved working with a whole variety of businesses. We did a lot of fun things, creative things on radio and TV before discovering real estate. But then once I did, I just realized that there was a whole category that nobody was really educating people on the right way to do it. And so that's been the last almost 20 years now. Hard to believe. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It's been quite a journey. So if I remember correctly, you had an agent that you were working with and you got them on air. Who was that with?
That was with Jay Kinder.
Right.
Back in 2000. It was I think it was 2002. We started on the air, and I just thought, it's Little Lawton, Oklahoma, and I just said, I knew our morning show was popular, and I said, hey, what if we made you like the interview guy, like the guy that we talked to for advice? And he said, yeah, kind of like this financial planner that he had heard. So we started it, and I just thought this would be like any other campaign. Next thing I know, he went from 100 transactions to 230 transactions in a year. He only had one person on his team. He was working crazy hours. And then he started forming a team after that, and then grew that. And then eventually he was able to sell the business, because of his success. But it just kind of snowballed into, wow, we could do this. One time when we were having lunch, and I just said, how can I clone you by 30? This is kind of cool what we're doing here. And he said, you should come with me to this conference. And I go to this conference, and next thing you know, he's up on stage plugging the whole idea of radio working to double your listings, and that the guy that helped him was here. And so then the break happens, and we know what happens when new ideas come up. All the squirrels, run and wanna hover over the new nut, right? So that's kind of where it all started, and then it just gets kind of snowballed since then.
What conference was that?
That was a Craig Proctor conference.
Oh, Craig Proctor.
Arizona. Brian Moses, love your brother. He was on stage, plug-in Jay, and I never realized that would be a life-changing experience.
Wow. You had no idea what that would bring.
No idea.
Because now, fast forward, 2020, you have about how many clients?
About 200. Yeah.
And so you're working with the top teams in the country, the top groups. What do you see as some of the most important traits of a top real estate agent?
Several things. I mean, I've watched some that have been in tiny markets that have gone from 50 transactions. I just was talking to Heather Skender, little Cookeville, Tennessee, 50,000 people, and she went from 100 transactions to just when that was a big deal to now 400 in 1 year.
Wow, she went from 100 to 400. How?
Not in a year. This was over the course of about 3 or 4 years, but just gradually building a team. We did it in layers, right? Nobody does this overnight. I mean, I think of like a Rob Buchansky, in New Jersey. I watched him go from 125 deals to this year. I think last month he did 240 transactions.
In a month.
Last month.
How many people does he have on his team now? Do you know?
I lose count.
Like 50 agents? Or?
I don't want to be inaccurate. I lose count. But my point is, from a tiny market to a big market, it's just a variety of different leaders, but they all have very common threads. And you ask what are the common threads? I'd say number one, they're fearless. They don't mind being different. They think differently. They don't give in to the limited thinking inside of their market that says, oh, that can't be done here, or that will never work here. Rather than that, they think, what are the possibilities? What if it could work? And then because our culture has got, so many people that have made it work, it's always interesting. I watch, like at masterminds, we're just talking about when we can all get together, when they meet people from other markets, right? And they think that they're doing great. They sold 200 homes in a year, and they think I'm pretty special. And then they meet somebody that is in a market half their size, selling 500 homes a year. One of two things happen. Either they get defensive, or they say, what are you doing? Exactly what you just said, Maria. They want to know, what did they do to move the needle? What are they doing differently? And that's really the kind of the culture that we've watched, grow over the years, of a lot of just very outside the box thinking agents that aren't satisfied with being great. They think to themselves, you know what, I could do more than this. Or even if I'm doing 30% market share, like somebody like Amy Wienans does in little Waterloo, Iowa. She'll do 30% market share, sell 600 homes in a year, but she'll be the first person to say, you know what that means? That means I'm not working with 70% of my market. And I want to know, what can I do to work on that 70%, right? So that the other thing that they love doing is they love learning. They never stop learning. This market has forced us to have to start learning all over again and quickly. And so they're quick to not hold on to maybe what they were doing for many years. And they're willing to say, you know what's working right now? What can I do right now to adjust? The other thing that they are also very keen to do is not just hold on to what they think works. They want to see, what's the consumer journey? What's that like now versus a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? What adjustments can we make? Because the way people consume things now is different than the way it was even a year ago, and even 6 months ago, when COVID hit. People are doing things differently. So they've got a infectious, I like to say, a passion for progression. They love learning from us. They love getting better and learning what's working out there. And they aren't intimidated by others. They love learning from others. They're great students first. Great teachers are always great students first. So I think those are some of the basic traits that I see. They also aren't afraid of a coach, because a coach can, as we both have a dear friend, John Sheplock, and they're not. He can be very tough and direct, but he's right. And but you need someone like that to toughen you up a little bit, and I think that that's healthy for all of us to have.
It sure is. It sure is. You learn a lot about, I think during this time in the last 6 months, one of the things that I recognize the most important thing is building a community. And working with the clients in a different way than we had in the past, meaning, real estates can be very reactive, and figuring out how to be as proactive as possible. I said to my staff last week, I said, if anybody calls here and they don't want to buy or sell something, we didn't do our job. Meaning the client should never call the office, right? We want to provide them with the service where they don't have to ever call us. We're calling them. And how do you do it? Because it's hard. It's not just, if you can't just turn it on one day. I mean, there's things that have to happen. It starts with how you onboard somebody. And I think that that's something that over the last 6 months, with emotions running high, you've seen it in your business, right, Matt?
It's true.
Even with us, with your clients, emotions have run high. I'm sure, there's been some breakdowns, there's been some breakthroughs, and there's been some crying, and there's been a lot of stuff, right? That's everybody. So the world's different today. And so how do we embrace that, and how do we make that change? Because when you are used to doing things in a certain way, it takes a different look at it, I think.
Yeah, you need to put a different set of glasses on, because when you take a fresh perspective, sometimes you could look at the exact same thing and look at it from a different set of eyes. And when you look at it from a different set of eyes, for example, look at a website. 5 years ago, a website was a business card. Today, it's the front door to our business. And I ask all the time. I mean, we deal with some of the highest level people in the radio business, and I'm asking them constantly, what trends are you seeing? How are the most successful advertisers getting reaction and growing their business? How are they tracking their business? And I get the consistent answer across the board. They're watching their website activity. Why? Because anymore people can do their homework now more than ever. I mean, now, years ago, if you wanted to go to a restaurant, you'd go to a hotel, you'd open up the phone book, you look at or you'd find a flyer in the hotel room, right? Today you just go to your phone, you go to Google. Google brings you over to an app, like Yelp. You read the reviews, you look at the picture, you call up and check out a reservation. You're checking out restaurants before you ever decide on where to go. It's no different with real estate. How I moved to New York last year. I bought my car basically because of a YouTube ad that was running me on a test drive. I did my homework before I ever called the car dealership. And that's today's market. So if we're not studying online activity, we could be hemorrhaging a lot of business and a lot of money. That trend alone has changed in the last year. Again, same item, but the way we look at it can make or break our business.
Right. And even how people consume social media. It's
Absolutely.
It's now like a reality TV show. Here we are. Look, Matt, before April 1st, there was no Be the Solution podcast. It all came from COVID.
No, it's interesting. Even one of my talk show hosts made a comment once he started boosting his show, how that made such a huge difference. And that's changed much of the direction that we give to people. We've launched several shows because of that. And just by that one little thing, it's made such a huge difference. So, no, absolutely. It just takes keeping a fresh approach. I look at situations like COVID right now as there's a lot of opportunity. But you just got to be open-minded. I applaud you for what you're doing. I know this is a lot of hard work. It's not easy scheduling these calls and doing these calls on top of running your business, but it really shows what you're doing for agents. You're really giving back to your team by learning and by meeting different people and giving back. You're gaining, and I'm happy for anyone on your team because they're getting a lot of info.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. It's about growing and developing and continuing to do that regardless of whatever else is going on. I wanted, when I was in college, I went to college first for fashion design. I quickly learned that I was a terrible seamstress and I stunk at drawing. So between the two things, I'm like, how am I going to get my thoughts on the paper? So I 86 that. I went into school. I went to Temple for school in the School of Communications, SCAT, studied radio. First, I thought I was going to be a broadcast journalist. So here I am today, fulfilling that dream of being a broadcast journalist. But I decided, because I had a teacher and he was selling radio. He was a general manager for a group of radio stations, Power 99 and that group at the time. And I thought he was so cool because it was circa 1991-ish. And he comes in, leather trench, Mercedes-Benz, leather briefcase, phone. He had a phone. He had a cell phone, 1991.
Those big old things, right?
Yeah, it was like,
yay
big. But I thought this guy was like the coolest cat. I'm like, and he was so funny. He used to sing that song, Maria. I just met a girl named Maria. Every time I came into it was funny. He made me laugh. Anyway, I thought he was great. And I said to him, how do you do this air thing? What do you mean you sell air? Like, what is even that? And he tells me, I'm like, how much money do you make? He tells me, I'm like, I'm going to do that. Yep. I'm going to do that. And then that's what I did. That's what I did. I had my internship at KYW TV, which at the time was an NBC affiliate at Fifth and Market. And I said, I'm going to go sell air, TV, radio, whatever. And then when I got in, I said, this is a 10-year career for me. Didn't know what I was going to do after that. But, most people figure, you get into real estate, it's like an overnight success. No, I've been knocking on doors since I was 10 years old, selling Christmas cards and wrapping paper for $1 a box at 10, door knocking. So no overnight success over here, 50 years in the making, basically, right?
Yeah.
So
when I was with sales, I actually figured out I was in 8th grade and we were going to Six Flags. So I figured out that, McDonald's was giving away, I needed to get extra cash for the day. So McDonald's would give out these dollars, fun money at Six Flags. So I figured it out. If I actually bought an ice cream cone for 30 cents, I could actually get 70 cents back from doing it. So I actually, no joke, I stood at McDonald's and I offered to buy people ice cream cones as long as I got their dollar. So I get 35 cents. They come back and hand me their dollar. I want to get like $20 to go spend at Six Flags, which at that time, $20 actually bought you something,
Wow.
So it's crazy.
That's funny.
That mindset of sales.
Hey, whatever, you gotta hustle. You gotta make $1.
Exactly.
Right now we do it a little bit differently, but we're still doing it in our own way, in our own, however we put our little spin on it, right?
But you know what? It's all about my mom and dad hated salespeople. And then I'm actually glad they did, because it taught me to not be a salesperson. It taught me to be someone who listens, who figures out what people really need, and then communicate in a way that helps them achieve what they want. And when you do that, that's really not selling, it's helping. Because if you really understand what you have, it's much like, even though you're not really selling someone a home, you're helping them achieve their dream.
100%. I mean, what we market is, we market ourselves. The houses are what our clients buy. We don't choose it for them. We're facilitating the transaction to get them to have the best experience they can. But that's not what the end result is building the relationship and being the solution. I always say we get hard cases sometimes. We get a lot of listings that expired, or like when I started the business, I would literally, that was what I called. I called expireds, because they wanted to be sold. They wanted to sell their house to move on to the next thing. So I said, well, I can help them. I know how to do this. most of the agents weren't listing agents, so they didn't really know how to get it done. And so we get a lot of those, and it's not selling. We are facilitating that process because we have 100 different checkpoint system that we utilize to make sure that they net the highest value for their house, right? And make sure that deal gets done. So all those things are super important, but at the end of the day, it's all about building that relationship and doing whatever you have to do in order to get it done. So I think those things haven't changed, right? The relationship aspect of it.
Absolutely.
So I have some questions for you. I thought, okay. What do you work with people all over the entire country in real estate.
Yeah.
And so your perspective is different than like us here in Philadelphia. And so what are you seeing in the cities, the other urban cities across the country? Are the agents that you work with experiencing some challenges there, or?
I think it's very similar all over the country. Right now, there's just a very shortage of inventory, and the reality is people are still nervous about listing their home, and they're still holding back. But at the same time, it's pin-up demand, right? When they do, all of a sudden there's incredible demand. But the real interesting part about that is the real catch is the move-up buyer. That's the goal. Because if you get somebody, if you can figure out a way to help them find the home of their dreams the moment it hits the market, now they automatically go from a partially serious seller to a very serious seller. So being able to facilitate to that person, that having that handoff from the buyer agent to the listing agent, being able to ask the right questions up front to people, and again, like you said, be the solution, right? Figure out knowing what they're thinking is very valuable. And the agents that are talking to people, the people that are understanding what their past clients are thinking, their prospects are thinking, and then giving them what they want, helping them achieve their goals, they're the ones that are winning. The people that are sitting back, waiting for business to come to them, it's a lot more of a struggle, and it's going to be up through 2021. The other thing is that those who are embracing intelligent social media are also engaging and figuring out ways to engage with people. That's changing by the day, it feels like. So being able to be in touch with that also makes a huge difference. Those are two things out of the box that I've seen.
So for sellers right now, people that want to sell that are on the market, I was just did a news clip on Fox 29 on Saturday, and which was really cool.
Cool.
But I said, there's no time like the present to declutter your house, to get it ready, because if you're an active buyer, when that house becomes available, you have to be ready to pull the trigger. And most people, that means putting their house up for sale as soon as they find the one that they're going to buy. And if you haven't yet started to declutter and work on getting the house ready for sale, you are going to be in a bad position come the day that you find your dream home. So it's like all about prepping. We talked about also green photos. Right now, it's still green out. Houses look better in this time of year than they do in December, January, February, or even March. Because here in Philadelphia, anyway, the sun isn't shining in December. It's usually gray and cold, and maybe there's leaves on the trees, but they're brown. So the houses don't show as well in those times of the year. So getting them prepared and having the pictures done now versus waiting later is also something that they can, people can do to get themselves ready, I say, for sale. And then they'll be in better position than their competition on the market when it hits the market.
Well, two things I would add to that, and you're spot on with that. I was actually talking to Frank Leo, #1 agent in Canada for Remax. You probably know Frank, in Toronto. Very, very intense competitive market. I mean, you're talking about, they even get dozens of offers for homes when they hit the market. And Frank made a very interesting point, as I said, you must hear that comment about people thinking, well, I'm going to wait till I find the perfect home, and then I'm going to put my home on the market because I know it'll sell quickly. His comment was, why short yourself $20,000, $30,000? What do you mean by that? He said, well, right now, if you sell your home first, you're going to probably sell it for 10, 20,000 over the asking price, and you're in control. Now, when you've got that extra money in your stash, now you can take that and you can actually buy more home. Whereas if you wait, you find the home you like, you put an offer on it, you get accepted. Now you sell your existing home. You're going to be, what if that home doesn't attract the offers you want? What if you have to settle for less money than you thought? What if the market changes? Better to have that money cash in hand up front when you can shop for more home than you can, without. I thought that was a very interesting observation, number one. The second thing, I think, especially of consumers, the value of working with somebody with a team like you guys is that, the average agent is very quick to move on if they don't sense there's business. And so if I'm a consumer, I want that agent that's going to stay with me, that's going to continue to help me when I'm ready to make a decision, that's going to be there. Whereas if I've got to chase my guy down, if I'm not in communication with him, I'm just going to move on to the next person when I'm ready. If teams have cultivation systems in place to really work with someone who's serious versus someone who's ready to move on to the next person.
Yeah.
I think that's what you guys have.
I think teams are critical right now. I think it's critical that you are working with a team. It's critical that agents that aren't on a team, they maybe get on the team because, we've already forged the way. We know the path. We have processes and systems in place, and we're spending the money in the marketing to, attract business into our company. So there's a lot, which then attracts buyers, which then means the sellers are going to get more money because we have more buyers. It's a domino effect in a positive way of all of these things that are in place in order to grow.
I heard a very interesting analogy used by Mark Cuban. As we know Barbara, and so because of Barbara, got to meet different sharks. And one of my favorite quotes from Cuban, Mark Cuban, was, he said, think about it. It's a lot better. 15% of a grapefruit is a lot better than 100% of a golf ball. And, when you're on a team and you've got all these different admin staff working for you, handling all the detail, it's been fun as I've watched a lot of these teams grow, where they add 10, 20, 30, 100 agents, is that they're able to, now agents that previously were working 60, 70, 80 hours a week to sell 10, 20 homes a year can now sell 3 to 4 times as many homes, work less, have a greater quality of life, because the team structure allows them to have that type of freedom because someone else is handling the details. It's short-sighted to think, well, why give up a more percentage? But the reality is, yeah, you might give up more of a percentage, more of a split, but at the end of the day, bigger volume to make slightly less of a split is far better than struggling to do 100% of a small volume.
Yeah. And then, in addition to that too, I don't know anybody that's good at 7 different jobs, because in a transaction outside of, I love that mug you got there.
Pennsylvania, baby.
Yeah. Outside of just the real estate transaction itself, there's 7 jobs in it. So I don't know anyone, about 1, maybe 2. And those are the ones that I perform. Outside of that, there are others who do those other jobs. And I've said this, and this is one of the things, since I walked into business in 2004, March 2004, I said, this is the stupidest business setup I've ever seen in my life. How can one person do all these different things? How is it even humanly possible? Maybe humanly possible, but to do it well and to do it at a high level of expertise, No. So I think, that's the value you get for, working in a team environment and working on a team and working with a team. Because you know that if you're working with a contract manager, that that position, that's all they do. They're not, showing houses. They're in the office making sure that file is set up for closing and everything in between that has to happen there. So it's interesting for sure.
That's true.
So Matt, let's talk a little bit about Zillow.
Okay.
What is going on there? Are they a real estate company or what?
It sure seems like it. I mean, I'm not going to bash Zillow. I mean, I don't sell Zillow. I have nothing to do with it. And I know that by their doing flex fees, I know that's opened up a lot of ad revenue that people are now spending on radio and TV. So, hey, I can't complain, from that. But I do think what's really interesting, and you hear a lot of these articles out there right now. It's kind of a hot topic. And, I talk to a lot of people, right? I mean, and I see the good, I see both sides of it. But the one thing I can say is I've watched the people that are cultivation minded. And at the end of the day, at least just from my observation, Zillow is ideally it's working with a lot of agents that don't really want to do any of the legwork. All they want is, okay, scrub the lead for me, bring it to me when it's available, and I'll pay 35% for it, or I'll just buy the lead. Whereas if you actually are in the cultivation mindset, I've known a lot of agents that haven't had to spend a dime, on Zillow. And what have they done? They've worked really hard to cultivate prospects. I remember one time one agent told me, he goes, I'd rather have 500 prospective sellers than 10 now sellers. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, I'd rather have 500 people that I can cultivate. I can educate them about my system so that when they're ready, and they're going to be in the next 6 to 12 months, they're not even going to look online. They're not going to look at Zillow or other resources. They're going to come to me. And that takes discipline. It takes education. It takes a team. But you know what? If someone's not prepping themselves right now, they're going to become a slave to Zillow. And it's not healthy to be a slave to anybody, especially when you want to run your own business. I mean, what do you think? I'm frozen. Or you're frozen. Okay. Well, while we're waiting for Maria to come back, I hope that we weren't sabotaged. I hope that we weren't taken over. I'll wait for Maria to come back. If you guys do have any questions, feel free, if you're always wondering, how could I be a resource? If you're a real estate agent, how could I be a resource on radio or TV? Feel free to reach out. radioandtelevisionexperts.com. PM me via Facebook. But whatever I can do to help, I'm here. And I love what Maria's doing. I think it's great. If you're an agent and you're thinking about, joining Maria's team, I can tell you, she loves progression. She loves being innovative, and she surrounds herself with really, really smart people, which is what you want in a leader. So hopefully this was helpful to all of you. Looks like we're having some technical challenges, but hope you guys all have a great day, and we'll look forward to talking to you all soon.